Hey everybody, Michael Crump here, yet again, talking about the latest and the greatest PlayStation 4 homebrew news and much, much more. Today, I want to provide a much needed update to my video just a couple of days ago, where we used a Raspberry Pi to host and to emulate USB loading for the PlayStation 4 9.00 jailbreak. The developer has released a new update, and you're going to want to check this out. It is awesome, believe me. So a quick recap in case you didn't watch the previous video. There's a new method that works with some Raspberry Pi devices, which we'll cover in just a moment, that will allow you to eliminate the need of plugging and then unplugging a USB in order to run the 9.00 jailbreak. This method also has a web host and a DNS server to allow you to be able to host your own exploits without the need of requiring an internet connection and then going to some other host that's already out there on the internet. It's all self-hosted and self-contained. And also with this method, you are able to add in local internet if you want to still access things such as your FTP on your local network. So the latest V10 build is out. There's a couple of things to note, but one of the more interesting things is that there is now an option to auto jailbreak. So what this means is that if you reboot your PlayStation 4 console, it will walk through the menus automatically to perform the jailbreak. So no user interaction is required until you get to a step to where you need to hit OK to get rid of the USB notification. Now, there's also the ability to use the rest of the SD card for things such as packages. So this is especially helpful for instances where you want a complete solution just on a Raspberry Pi. This means that now you really have a one-stop solution. Not only can you host the exploit, you can emulate the USB drive, you can even automate the process of going in and running the exploit, and now you can store packages on that same SD card that lives inside of the Raspberry Pi. And then finally, there was a number of other bug fixes, which I won't cover here today, but you can read about them in the release notes located in the URL shown on the screen. So for the tools required, a Raspberry Pi Zero W, or you can use the PiZero 2W or the Pi 4B. You're going to need a USB-A micro USB cable. And then for the SD card, I bumped this up from a 400 megabyte card to at least 1 gigabyte. The latest image is setting a little over 500 megabytes. But at this point, you should have a ton of SD cards lying around your house, and more than likely, they're going to be at least 2 gigabytes or higher. And with that being said, let's jump into the action. Okay, so the very first thing that I'm going to do here today is I'm going to take my SD card, and I have went ahead and I've inserted it into my computer, and then I just brought up this tool. It's called Disk Management. It obviously ships with Windows, and you can take advantage of this tool to do some disk operations. What I'd like to do is I would like to show you that in disk 1, where it says removable 3.73 gigabytes, this is my SD card. And before we start flashing it, first I think it's best to go ahead and go into this and then select on each one of the different partitions that it shows, and then we're going to simply press the delete button. Okay, and then hit yes on that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go to the other two partitions, and we're just going to simply delete those. Before we start, we want our SD card to be completely set as unallocated. Okay, so that's it. We're ready to go ahead and start downloading some of the tools. Okay, so here is the GitHub page where everything is contained. And in this instance, all of the downloadable files are just contained right here within the GitHub. So you don't have to go to that Discord link like you went to last time. It shows the changes. I mentioned a couple of these just a moment ago. But if you scroll down into this page, you'll see that there is a couple of different builds. So there is this build right here, which is just for the PiZero W. And then this one right here is obviously for the PiZero 2W, and then finally the Pi4B. Since I'm using the PiZero-W, I'm just going to select this link and then let it download. Okay, it should just take a moment and we'll be ready to go. Okay, and after doing a little bit of testing, I was able to find that this program, which is called Etcher, is working a little bit better, in my opinion, than the Win32 disk imager that we used previously. So if you head over to this page and then you click on where it says download, it should download there for you. And then once this is complete, we're just going to hit this setup.exe button. Let's agree to the terms and just let it finish installing. Okay, so here is the application once everything has been installed. And what we're going to do is we're going to select where it says flash from the file. And I'm just navigating out to my current build, which is just the V10 build 5. Now, keep in mind is that there is brand new builds that's coming out all the time. So if you've went ahead and you've seen maybe build 6 is out, that just means between the time that I recorded this video, the developer has went ahead and put out another build. Just take the latest and greatest image. Okay, so I'm going to select my build 5. And it already detected my SDHC card. Since I know in my computer I don't have anything else plugged into it, that is the correct disk. And also I can verify that by looking at the file size below. But just double check to make sure that you've selected the right drive. And then you're going to want to hit the flash button. Okay, we're going to give this just a moment here. It will go through the process of flashing first, and then it will go through a verification process. Okay, so now it is validating the image, and in just a second we will be done. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's switch back over to our PlayStation 4 and make sure you go ahead and you plug in your Pi. Again, in my instance, I've got the PiZero-W. I've plugged it in and the SD card has been taken out, and that micro SD has now been placed inside of my Raspberry Pi Zero-W. Once that's all done, give it a couple of seconds, and then we're going to head over and we're going to connect to that via our network. So go down to where it says network, and we're going to go set up a connection. We're going to use Wi-Fi. We're going to custom, and PiZero is the one that you're going to want to select. So we're going to PiZero, and we're going to go automatic, do not specify, and then we're going to go manual for the DNS settings. And just like last time, we're going to set our primary and our secondary DNS to 7.7.7.1, and we're going to select next, automatic, do not use, and we're going to hit the circle button and then circle again. Head on up to where it says user guide. If everything is set up correctly, then what you will see is you'll see a quick redirect, and then we'll be over here at our PS4 Jailbreak host. Again, keep in mind that this web host is just stored simply on your Raspberry Pi Zero, which makes this, for the most part, relatively lightning fast. Okay, so I have went ahead and I have taken out my SD card and I have placed it back into my computer. Why, you might ask? And that's simply because I wanted to show you that now the rest of the storage space that was on the SD card is now opened up where you can start adding in things such as your package files. So you will see 4 different drives that will show up once you place the SD card back into your computer. There will be a D drive, which for the most part, you're just going to want to leave alone. This has some of the F files and a few other things such as the overlays. Then there is an E drive that will not be accessible. There is also an F drive, and in the F drive is where you could go ahead and you could upload things such as your bin files. You can also go in and check out there's like a gold hen folder where you could put the latest gold hen. So you can do quite a bit of maintenance on the Pi without having to wait for the developer to do that. What we're interested in is going to be the G drive, which should now show up. So by default, the developer goes ahead and they have added in PS4 Explorer as well as the Apollo Save Tool, as we can see right here. And with this latest release, if we go down and maybe we check out the properties on this drive, then we can see that it shows the used space as the 83 megabytes, which is just simply the PS4 Explorer and the Save Tool. But then the remaining of the free space, and in my instance, this was a 4 gigabyte card, is open to adding whatever packages that you would like. So again, I'm using a 4 gigabyte that I just had lying around the house. I know that for a fact, at least in the United States, you can get a 128 gigabyte SD card for right around $30 US. So I think that this would be a great opportunity if you wanted to include certain games. Maybe you make one of these for a friend, and not only can they host the server, it does the USB emulation as well, and then you can set them up with a couple of games to start with. Also think that this would be just great in really any offline scenario. Maybe you've got a couple of PS4s around the house. Again, instead of carrying around an additional USB stick with those games, you could just carry around your Pi. So the possibilities are endless here. Okay, so what I'm going to do in my instance is that I'm just going to delete these two packages off of the disk, and I am just going to copy and paste over my homebrew essentials list. Okay, so things such as the patch installer, the FTP, as well as remote package installer, and then I'm just going to drop in the latest PS4 Explorer and Sonic Mania, because why not? It's a small game and it is super fun. Okay, with those files being added, let's go ahead and test those in our PlayStation 4. So back over in our PlayStation 4, we're going to go to the option that just says Raspberry Pi. And now we're going to go down to where it says USB load. Okay, we'll get this pop-up here that says the load virtual USB command has been executed, and so now press the OK button. So we'll press OK here, and then let's just navigate back out to PS4 Explorer. Okay, and on PS4 Explorer, I'm just going to use the directional pad, and I'm going to navigate to my USB drive. So here we are. This is an emulated USB that has all of the packages that we just copied to it. And there they all are in their glory. So since I was doing some additional work for some videos here, you can see I've only got a couple of homebrew applications installed since I did a reformat. So I've got the patch installer, I have got payload guest, and then PS4 Explorer. Okay, let's go ahead and add in another homebrew app. Okay, and in this instance, I'm going to add back the ability for our Orbis FTP. So there it is. I'm going to hit the X button here, and it's going to add it to the downloads, and we should get our notification. There it is, ready to use, and we should get our IP address. Okay, it's been loaded. And there we go. There is our IP address. And so that homebrew is working just as expected. And we can go back into our settings and then go back to user guide and then user guide again. And then we can demount the USB drive. So we'll go into Raspberry Pi. And then we're going to USB remove. And it will say remove USB command has been executed. And we'll just press OK here. And now that emulated USB won't show up again in PS4 Explorer. Okay, so now we want to go ahead and enable the feature that allows us to automatically jailbreak the console. So down at the bottom, you'll see it says Auto JB Enable. Let's just go down to that and let's click on it one time. And it says Auto Jailbreak Set for our IP address. And it says make sure that the login settings, login automatic has been set. We'll double check on that in just a second. Go ahead and press the OK button. And let's go down to login settings and just make sure that yours shows as login to PS4 automatically. what will happen is that if you have multiple accounts, then the auto jailbreak just will not be able to run. So if we go over to our users, you can see that on my console, I'll only have one user added, but if you add a user here, then again, just make sure it is set to log in automatically. Okay, so let's go ahead and reboot this PlayStation 4 and see this in action. All right, we're just going to do a restart here. So before the system has been rebooted here, keep in mind that you're not going to have to perform any of the functions, at least at the beginning, because it's going to emulate a keyboard and do the jailbreak automatically. Okay, so hands off at this point, and as you can see, it is going through the options. It has landed on settings. It's going up to user guide. And now it's clicking on user guide. And it's going to run the exploit. Okay, it says loading. There we go. USB emulation is happening. It says do not close until the dialog box. I'm turning on my controller. And once this dialog box disappears, I'm going to hit the X button. Okay. And there we go. The jailbreak has been done. Perfect. Gold Hen has been loaded. So we'll just head over to our settings, and there is Gold Hen. We'll go to our About screen and then show the old school Cracktro. Okay, so that was absolutely awesome in my mind. I'm sure it's going to get even better as time goes by. I understand there's probably something that's going on with the timing of the USB stick since it's emulating that, and when you need to actually press X when that notification goes away. But I'm sure the developer is working on that, and it's just going to get much, much better. And I'll just go ahead and I'll take a game here just to show how well this is working. We'll go back into UnMetal, and again, UnMetal is working perfect. Okay, so just like I did in the last video, I do think that it is worth going ahead and setting up your Pi to connect to your local network, because you're going to need to be able to do things at some point, such as using FTP or any outbound internet connections. So let's go ahead and let's just do that now. Okay, so we're back over into our Raspberry Pi settings. We were just in this just a moment ago in order to do the enabling of the automatic jailbreak. So here I'm going to select my Wi-Fi SSID again, and mine is just going to be Roll Tide here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to input the password and then Wi-Fi enable. And it says WLAN is now enabled, and it says it will reflect on restarting the PS4. All right, so go ahead and press OK there. Okay, and so I would just go ahead now and I would just restart your PlayStation 4. Okay, so let's go back into settings and then network again. And we're going to go down to set up internet connection. And we're going to use Wi-Fi, and we're going to use custom here. Okay, and the Wi-Fi network that I'm going to use is going to be Roll Tide. And we're going to go automatic, do not specify. And then for the DNS settings, this is going to be the IP address of whatever your PiZero is on your network. So I talked about this a little bit more in detail in the previous video, but simply take out your app or go to your router's Wi-Fi page, look for PiZero, and that's the IP address you're going to want to put in here for your primary and your secondary DNS. Okay, so mine is set. And we're going to go next, automatic, do not use, and then circle, circle, and then back up here to user guide helpful info. Okay, and if you get this message here, again, I like to keep errors in my videos simply because if I'm hitting it, then I want you to be able to understand how to resolve it as well. If you see this message, it just simply means your web browser cache needs to be cleared. So go ahead and hit the OK button here. And we're going to go out to our internet browser, go into our settings, and then we'll just go ahead and disable the cookies as well as the website data. And we're just going to go back to our settings and then user guide, and it should be working properly now. Okay, there it is. And so while you are able to go ahead and go in and update your payloads directly through the SD card being inserted on your computer, I did want to show you the FTP option that's also built in to this method. So simply go into your FTP client. Again, I'm using FileZilla, completely free, and I believe it's on, well, I know it's on Windows and it's also on Mac. So go ahead and select the protocol as FTP, and then for the host IP address, that's going to simply be wherever your PiZero is on your network. This is the same thing that we just typed in for our DNS servers. For the port, make sure it's 2121. And then for the login type, normal. And then for the user, just type in the word user here. And then for the password, and in the release notes here, you can simply see that here is where I got all of this information for. Okay, so make sure that's added, and then you're going to want to click on where it says connect. We are going to always allow insecure plain FTP for this server, and we're going to press OK. Now, before I go any further, keep in mind that we're actually FTPing into the Raspberry Pi itself. This isn't the same IP address that your PlayStation 4 is on. So don't get those two confused, or it's going to lead to some problems later on. Okay, so on the remote site, keep in mind this is just on the SD card. You can see there is Gold Hen, which has the latest and greatest. There's also a Linux payload. There is a mod menu here. This has all of the GTA stuff in it. And then the rest of this is just the payloads that you already know and love. So again, you have read and write access to this folder, so you can take files off of the FTP or you can upload new ones to this. And the last thing that I wanted to show was that you can access just pizero.local in order to do some administration work on the PiZero. You could also type in the IP address. In my example, it would be the 10.0.0.95, but sometimes it's just easier to remember pizero.local. And again, it contains all of the functionality that I just showed you on the PlayStation 4, and so you could do some maintenance just from your local web browser as well. So I can come up to Raspberry Pi, and there is all the settings that we talked about just a little bit earlier. Again, I want to thank you so very much for watching the video. I hope this helped. I'm super excited about the developments in the PlayStation 4 scene. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Subscribe, and then new updates, new developments in the PlayStation 4 scene, I'll have you covered. Thanks for watching. With that being said, Michael out.